Week number 10, Sharpening the Edge. Maize and Blue Reviews. Handicapping podcast along with Lucas Reimink. I'm Dennis Fithian from the Maize and Blue Review. We're ready to kick this one off. Lucas, how are you? Doing all right?
Yeah, doing well. Wasn't the best week for me last week, only 3-5. Did hit my lock though, so not all bad. Hopefully we'll get back on the right track this week. I do feel better about the board this week for whatever reason. I don't know if I definitely didn't like the board last week. I'll say that now, but I like it better this week. So hopefully that means better luck is coming my way.
Well, I have never hit the parlay and the prop and the lock and all three of my best bets, which was the case last week. Georgia and Florida over, OSU, Wisconsin under, Oregon at Utah lock, Arizona plus 3.5. They won the game outright. Anytime TD scores hit, and my prop of Marvin Harrison over 120 went as well. So I'm feeling pretty good. State was the one that did me in the Lions from having a perfect week, but that's what I'm trying to achieve this week. And, Michigan was on the bye, as everyone knows. So now we get a chance to pick the Wolverines. They are in action tomorrow night, back at it, 7:30 start. Favored by 32.5. I'll just give you my quick analysis here. I think this is a game where Michigan comes out. Could they be rusty after the bye week? Hey, I thought it was going to be close against Michigan State at the half. I'm not sure about at the half or how they come out, but in the end, I do have them covering the 32.5, 42-9. Michigan, they look great on both sides of the ball. Everything's going great on the field. Off the field, we know about that, but on the field, things have been going great. I think they cover this spread.
I'm with you. Like you're mentioning, they've been on a roll lately the last few games. They just kicked it into another gear. The way that they're playing right now, I really don't see a reason to bet against them. So I'm just gonna jump on with you and tail them until they give me a reason not to. I'm moving forward. I think Michigan's handicap, a lot of the power ratings, they've moved to number one in the country by a couple points. So they're kind of distancing themselves from the field. The more that games continue to play, so which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I think Michigan is just on a really good ascent right now as a program, as a team, and I think as they continue to go on in this season, it'll only get better. So yeah, I have this one as like a 42-7 type of ball game, which would cover Michigan's spread by a couple points there. I will take the 32.5.
And you lay it, and we see it the same way. Well, the opposite of that, or what the antithesis of that, is Michigan State. And I think we both picked them last week. That was silly. But, you look at Michigan State getting 3 points at home. Nebraska, they have won 3 in a row. That's who they're playing tomorrow. And Michigan State, they haven't won since a week after Connor Stallions was reportedly, or maybe at their game. I don't know. So it's been a long time. I like Nebraska in this game, but it's Michigan State. There's no way I would take Michigan State after what I've seen here. I don't even know where the argument would be. They're home. Okay, they've lost plenty at home too. I thought they would be a bigger number here. I like Nebraska.
With you on this one as well. Just kind of a reasoning. Talked about the last couple of weeks. They kind of just look lifeless when they play. Kind of question how many of this team is actually going to be around for next year. Based on some guys have already entered the portal and the way some guys look when they actually are playing, doesn't seem like their head's really in the right space. I think everyone's kind of wondering if they're going to be there or not next year, including the coaches probably, by the way. Makes it really hard to win football games when you got a bunch of different people wondering what's going to happen, what's going on. Nebraska, like you mentioned, they've been on a roll. They have only beat in the last 3. It's Illinois and Northwestern and Purdue, so they're not exactly playing the stiffest of competition. But at least they look like they're trying, and you can't really say the same about Michigan State right now. So I just can't trust Michigan State, even though it's at home. So I will take Nebraska to lay the 3.5 there.
All right, we're in lockstep. Let's see if we have any going on in the best bets, where we give you a trio of best bets. I'll go first. I'm going to go to that LSU Bama game. Too bad there's 2 other games opposite of Michigan that I would watch if I wasn't watching Michigan. LSU Bama is one of those. I'm tempted to take LSU and get those points. I really like their offense, but I think the play in this is going over 60.5. You look at that LSU offense, Alabama can put up some points too. I don't think LSU is going to be able to stop Bama. If they are going to win, it's going to be by putting up 30, 40 points. It's a big number to go over 60.5, but I don't see the Tide really stopping the Tigers or vice versa. That's why I'm going to go over. And then last week I took Arizona at home. I liked them getting the points over Oregon State. I thought they would win outright. They're at home again this week against UCLA, and UCLA, they've lost some and been in some game like on the road against Utah. They lost by 7, but they are on the road. And if you look at Arizona, they beat Oregon State, they beat Washington State. They should be the favorites in this game. And yet they're getting 3 points. That's why I'll take Arizona in this game. And then my other best bet, I'm going to go to Kentucky. They have lost 3 games in a row, but all of them, Georgia, Mississippi, and Tennessee, they are laying just 3.5. This is not a good Mississippi State team. I think Kentucky will win this game by double digits. So I'll gladly lay 3.5 over an LSU Bama. I'll take Arizona. I'll take the 3 points. I don't think I'll need it. And I'll lay the 3.5. I'd lay double digits against Mississippi State, and I'll take Kentucky. Those are my best bets.
No agreements completely. Have a couple things that are sort of in alignment with your line of thinking, but I'll get to those later. For my 3 college football picks this week, I'll start with Ole Miss taking on Texas A&M. A lot of the talk around this Texas A&M team is about the Aggies offense and kind of how it's looked. They brought in the new coordinator of the offseason, Jimbo Fisher, obviously being an offensive coach. His offense it's very pro style, timing centric, and kind of complex verbiage that a lot of college players complain about. They say it's kind of difficult to run, it's difficult to master, and so that like the Aggies offense gets a lot of the attention. But when you actually look at Texas A&M, the way the numbers play out, their secondary is by far the worst unit on the field. They have a really bad secondary, but their D line on the other hand is really good. Challenge for Ole Miss in this game is, can you block them up front enough, at least well enough, to give yourself time to throw the football down the field? Because we know, based on how Texas A&M secondary is, that there will be opportunities to throw the ball down the field as long as they can block up front long enough. So I think in terms of scheming around a weakness, a mediocre O-line isn't actually that big of a deal. If you're a creative play caller, you can move the pocket, call screens. You can do different things like that to kind of take away from the O-line play and the D-line play and move the ball out wide quickly. Lane Kiffin, very creative play caller. I think he's going to do a lot of that in this game. I think he'll be able to scheme up enough plays through the air. I like them to cover this 3-point spread at home. I got them winning by about a touchdown. And then this one's a little bold. Betting against Georgia, I'm going to take Missouri plus the 15.5. Makes me nervous just because it's Georgia. Betting against them is a risky proposition. It is at home, but it's really just based on what I think of this Missouri team, and I really like this Missouri team. Brady Cook for them is having a really good year at quarterback. Luther Burden's been a superstar at wide receiver, one of the top receivers in the country in terms of yardage. He gets a lot of opportunities. And one-on-one, particularly in the slot, they like to put him in the slot, get him on the safeties, have him going down the field. That's a good matchup against almost any safety. Georgia defense the last couple of years has been completely dominant. But this year, actually, if you look at the numbers, they're not really that great at rushing the passer, which is kind of a surprise. You think of Georgia and you think of their defense. You think of getting after the passer, and they've kind of just been good enough. It's the secondary the last 2 years. This year it's a little bit flipped where they kind of have struggled rushing the passer, but they have a good secondary. If the offensive line can give them enough time to throw the football, they have the weapons out there to test the Georgia secondary in a way that I don't think it's been tested so far this year. And just with all the weapons out wide, Dia Weiss is a transfer from Oklahoma who's really good for Missouri. Also at receiver, they got another guy who's pretty good. So they got 3 good receivers that are particularly good at getting open. Brady Cook can get them the football. Georgia wins, but I think Missouri covers. I have that as about a 10-point spread. And then I will take Notre Dame 3.5 against Clemson. Very interesting week for Dabo. He's fighting radio callers this week, telling everyone, if you think his job is so easy, why don't you apply for it and come take it over from me? there's a lot of bad vibes going out of Clemson right now. I'm not exactly sure what the point is of going public and kind of complaining the way that he appears to be. Clemson, they're really good at moving the football down the field, actually on their offense, but they're really, really bad at turning the ball over. They turn the ball over a lot, especially in the red zone. And at some point in the season, like, you kind of just got to admit that this is what Clemson is. And I think after like 8 weeks now, you can kind of just say this is what they are. This is just what they do. They struggle to capitalize on all the yards that they can put up on a box score. And you look at Notre Dame, I just think they're the better team here. They have an identity. I'm not really sure what Clemson's identity is. The Irish will run the football. They play good defense, and they won't turn it over. And they've beaten a couple good teams already this year, so they got the confidence to be able to play a Clemson team that is kind of scary if you look at them coming off the bus. But once you actually get on the field, I don't think they're as good as people expect them to be. This Notre Dame team, kind of like a flashback. It kind of reminds me of the 2021 Michigan team a little bit. They're like a 90% version of them. They're not quite as good as that 21 Michigan team, but the power ratings, a lot of the way that plays out. I have them. It's kind of similar. It's kind of weird how the similarities, but it's pretty weird. But it's very similar to the 2021 Michigan team. And so needless to say, I really like this team. I think Notre Dame's pretty good. The biggest mismatch in this game, in my opinion, is Clemson's passing attack against a really good Notre Dame secondary. Klubnik hasn't had a very good year passing the football. The way that this game could play out for me to lose this bet, I think it would take Clemson putting like everything on offense together and playing their best game of the year. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm betting against it. I just don't think they're going to see that from Clemson this year. I think we know who they are at this point, and they should not be just a 3-point underdog at home to a good Notre Dame team. So I will take the Irish as my third college football play here.
There are the three picks: Notre Dame -3.5, Missouri plus 15.5, and Ole Miss -3. And no loyalty from Lucas. Last week he took Georgia and laid the points. This week he's like, nope, I'm going on the other side. So no loyalty from you, but that's all right. That's how it works.
They did cover for me last week.
So yeah, they covered for you. That was a little bit of a surprise when I saw that. All right, we've got a prop and a parlay, and then we have our best bets. And I am getting into, let's see if I have I do. Last week, I'm going to go to the well. You've been doing that. It's worked for you. I'm going to do it. I've got anytime touchdown scores. I hit all three last week, so I'm going to go back to it. Singleton scored last week. Judkins played for Ole Miss, and Marvin Harrison. Those three guys just score touchdowns. Anyway, I guess anyway on offense. They can't have kick returns, but, they can rush or receive. And plus 222. It's worth it. And it's a fun thing to do. So Harrison, Judkins, and Singleton. Harrison, of course, for Ohio State, Ole Miss running back, and Penn State's running back. Anytime TD scores. And for my prop, I'm going to go to the Michigan game, and I looked at Roman Wilson's receiving yards. It's 56.5. I'm going over. It's my prop for Roman Wilson. I think he's going to have a big day against that man-to-man coverage that Purdue likes to deploy. A lot of crossing routes be available for the Wolverines as well. J. McCarthy with some blitz beaters. I can see Roman coming across the middle. I can see him getting that 57 yards in the first half. So my prop over 56.5 receiving yards from Roman Wilson.
Not bad. I'm going to change up my parlay a little bit this week. I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive. I've got a few games that I feel pretty good about. This is all on the money line, like I've been doing pretty much all year. That's one of my favorite. If you're going to do a parlay, that's really the only smart way that I feel about it. So the 4 picks, 14 money line parlay. I have Ohio State to beat Rutgers on the road, but I think this Ohio State defense is really, really good. Just don't feel like Rutgers offense is good enough to give them trouble, even though it is at home. Ohio State coming off a close-ish kind of game against Wisconsin last week. I think they go on the road here and beat Rutgers pretty handily. So I'll put them on my parlay. I got Florida to beat Arkansas. The spread on this one is closer, but Florida, I've talked about this a couple times this year, I think. Florida at home is like a much different team than they are when they travel outside of the swamp. They're a very tough team to go into and beat when they're playing at home. Arkansas, on the other hand, People are kind of wondering Sam Pittman, like, is he even going to be around next year? He's kind of on the hot seat. Bit of speculation there, but there's a chance he's not even coming back next year. If you really want to get into it, the contract stipulation's interesting with that one. If he loses like a couple more games this year, I think his record at Arkansas falls below 500, and therefore they can fire him without having to pay the buyout, or it drops dramatically. So he really needs these wins, but the way they've been playing, it just doesn't seem like something's off with Arkansas. They just have not played nearly up to the capabilities that I expected from them coming into this year. And I think I think he kind of knows what's going on. I think he knows he's in trouble. So I'm going to take Florida. Still got a life in the program. I'm going to take Florida to win that game there. Air Force, I have them as I like Air Force. I think they're a pretty good team if you ever watch them. And then they're taking on Army. I think a lot of times you see in this game people bet the under. I'm just taking Air Force to win. I think they're a good team. I think even though it's Service Academy game, there's going to be some familiarity there. Obviously, they play each other almost every year. I still think Air Force is the better team here. I don't think they're going to have too much of a problem dispatching Army. And then Arizona to beat UCLA outright, putting it in my parlay. I'm totally in agreement with you there on that one. A lot of the reasons you talked about. I like this Arizona team. The UCLA defense, I've talked about them quite a bit this year as well. They're really, really good on defense.
Yeah.
But their offense has just been very sporadic and not very good. They switched from Dante Moore. Earlier in the year, it was a different quarterback. They switched to Dante Moore partway through the year. Now they switched back to the other one because Dante Moore just wasn't getting it done. They just really don't have what they've had the last couple of years on offense. The offensive line in particular is taking a step back. It's made it harder to run the football. Neither quarterback has been consistent throwing the football. So they just haven't had an easy time scoring against really anybody. This Arizona team, meanwhile, they switched quarterbacks a couple weeks ago. Went with a young kid, true freshman, Fifita. He's been really good the last couple weeks, been lighting it up. Arizona is headed in the right direction, and I think UCLA's offense is just struggling way too much that I just think Arizona should be favored here, to be honest with you. So I feel we're getting a lot of value there, throwing them in my money line parlay here because they're technically the underdog. So those four teams combined, plus 303, shooting a little bit higher than we have in weeks past, but I feel really good about these picks. So hopefully we'll hit that one. My prop is sorry, Dennis, you have something to add to that?
I'm just saying you're gambling now on these parlays. I mean, that's a juicier number. I'm with you. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I just like the picks enough. I think it's good value, so I like it. Jermaine Burton, I'm going to go over 62.5 receiving yards for my prop. It's kind of like in alignment-ish with what you're talking about with the LSU Bama game. Anyways, the last couple of weeks, he's been right around this 60-ish number, but he had 197 like 3 weeks ago. In my opinion, he's their best receiver. I think the last few weeks, defenses have focused on him a little bit more. That's allowed other guys to succeed because they're focusing on him a little bit more. He's really coming on and playing well down the stretch. Originally transferred over from Georgia, where he had a pretty good career there as well. LSU secondary on the other side, really, really bad. Definitely the weakness of this team. They took 4 cornerback transfers this offseason, and based on some of the injuries, suspension-related issues that they're having, sounds like there's a chance all 4 of them might be out for this game. So you got potentially 4 LSU cornerbacks who transferred in. All might be out. And if you take 4 quarterback transfers, like what do you think that says about how you feel about the guys you had in the room before that? Probably not too good, right? There's probably some signal to the noise there. So I like Jermaine Burton to go over that 62.5. He's kind of the deep threat in the Alabama offense. Jalen Milroe is not really all that great at throwing the ball short and intermediate areas of the field consistently. But what he can do is throw the football down the field well. And I think he'll be able to do that. I think him and Jermaine Burton will hook up for at least one big play here, and that'll push his total over that 62.5 there.
I like it. Well thought through. Moose, meanwhile, wants you to comment in on the RICO Act as it applies to possibly Ohio State illegally gaining. That's for another show, it looks like there, Moose. But, I get where you're coming from. All right, we have one selection left, and that is our locks of the week. And I'll go first. And I hit mine last week. We both liked Oregon going into Utah, and they just went in and spanked them. I like having a game going in where you feel like it's over. And this one is a rivalry game. Last time they might play this one in a while. Oklahoma State hosting Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been good to me this year, but you look at a lot of the numbers, and Oklahoma State. What Oklahoma State does have is they have an excellent running back, maybe the best running back in the country, and OG2 Ollie Gordon, and Oklahoma, if they're going to be able to roll in this one, they're going to have to contain him. But being at home, being able to control the clock, I like that. I like the Cowboys actually in an upset here, but I'll gladly take the 6 points. Oklahoma State, my lock of the week.
That's an interesting pick. My gut feel when I saw the line, I was looking at it earlier this week. I had the same exact thought you did. I was kind of like feeling Oklahoma State, but I don't know. Like Oklahoma the last couple weeks, they have not looked good at all. But the reason I didn't decide to pick it, didn't feel confident enough picking it as one of the picks for this week's show, was I just wonder if they were looking ahead to this Oklahoma State game so much because it is like the rivalry in state. You want to win the last one on the schedule sort of thing. So that was the only reason I stayed away. But I was with you when I was looking at the lines as well. So rooting for you there.
I'm glad for your honesty there. Look, man, I was going to go Maryland +8 versus Penn State. Then I'm looking over Maryland the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, I can't bet them. Even though Penn State was tied with Indiana in the fourth quarter, I was feeling like, Maryland there. But then I was like, I can't do that. And it was kind of the same thing with Washington and USC. I like betting against USC because I hate their defense so much. But Washington's playing these tight games too, and then laying in 3, I had to stay away from that one as well. I mean, you can like games and you start researching them, you're like, I can't really do it. So something can be tough when you have to pick these many games. I know, when you're out there looking at the menu, firing picks left and right. So it can be difficult. With all that being said, out of all of the games and everything that you could pick as your lock of the week, what did you go with?
Yeah, so the reason I was bringing that up is I didn't feel good enough to join you on the Oklahoma State one, but I do feel good enough to join you on Kentucky. I'm with them as well. I got them as my lock of the week. I saw it 4.5 now. I don't know. Get the best number out there you can. I still like it all the way up until it gets to 6 is kind of the range where I would take that one. If you listen to the show, I continue to move in that direction. It kind of seems like I just really believe these two teams are different classes in the SEC here. Mississippi State's among the worst teams in the SEC. Kentucky, I think, is more of in the middle tier, kind of in the Tennessee-ish range. A lot of whispers here in Mississippi State. Might be looking for a new coach in a few weeks. Not necessarily saying that's 100% true or guaranteed or anything like that, but that's kind of the belief. And you can kind of, just the way that the season has gone for Mississippi State, they had a really experienced team coming back. It just hasn't worked out for them on offense. It seems like they're just trying to, like, they almost played offense kind of like Iowa does, where they don't really want the ball on offense. They just kind of do it to set up the defense and play field position. I just think Kentucky, the way they run the football, and now Devin O'Leary for them has played better the last couple of weeks. He's kind of coming on a little bit, getting more comfortable in Kentucky's offense. It's a little bit different than what he was running at NC State. I think Kentucky, I like this as long as it's under a touchdown, I think they'll cover the spread. I like this one quite a bit, so that is my lock of the week.
Obviously, I like that since I had that included in my trio of best bets. Ma'am is saying that the line is 35.5. I just looked at it. It's still 32.5, at least on DraftKings. So, hey, 35.5. I guess that wouldn't work with my 42.9 score, but look around, ma'am. If you're going to bet them, or if you're so confident, just lay the points 35.5. Go ahead and do it. You have any final points out there as you take a look at everything, Lucas?
No, I'm just excited to get back to real football now and not all the science feeling stuff. Kind of sick of that conversation. So I like talking about real football much more, hearing about real football much more. So I'm sure a lot of Michigan fans out there are in agreement with me as well.
I just know that it would be a lot different if we were talking about it in the offseason or we were talking about it during a bye week with an undefeated team. It tends to frazzle everyone, and I get it. All right, enjoy the football tomorrow, and best of luck. And we will talk with you. It'll be week 11. Michigan will be headed to Happy Valley. Good luck. Good luck.
Absolutely, you too.